Alright, now moving on to content from Lab 2 of the muscular system. The muscles of the neck. We have the sternomastoid right here. So it's on the middle side of our jugular vein. So our sternomastoid is going to attach down at the sternum, and then on the outside or lateral side of the jugular vein is the clidomastoid. So this muscle right here, the clidomastoid, and it's going to attach up at the temporal lobe and then all the way down to the clavicle bone. Okay, so clidomastoid and sternomastoid. Shoulder muscles of the cat. So take this shoulder here. If you remember, the acromiotrapezius muscle is going to sit on top of the scapula, and if we move that aside, you can clearly see and also feel the spine of the scapula right there. So this muscle here is the supraspinatus, okay, supra above, and it's going to fill the supraspinous fossa of the scapula bone. Okay, and then below the spine we have the infraspinous muscle, and that's going to fill the infraspinous fossa of the scapula. And then finally, right along the bottom edge of our scapula, we have right here the teres major muscle, just right in there. Okay, and then we'll switch sides on our cat. And if you remember, we have here our clavotrapezius extending down into the clavobrachialis. And this just thin strip of muscle right here, this is the levator scapulae muscle right there. And then we have our deltoids right in here. So the spinodeltoid, this muscle outlined right there, and it sort of runs parallel to the spine of the scapula. Okay, so our spinodeltoid, and then that also continues into the spinotrapezius muscle there. And then finally, this muscle here is the acromiodeltoid. Okay, and that kind of continues into the acromiotrapezius muscle right there. Alright, and then finally, the subscapularis. If we lift up the scapula and flip it, on the underside here, filling the subscapular fossa, is our subscapularis muscle, just right there. Muscles of the upper arm. The first one are biceps brachii. Okay, again, I've turned the arm over, and if we just move aside some of those superficial muscles there, we'll find our biceps brachii. Okay, that muscle right there. And then the triceps brachii are right in here. Okay, there's the lateral head and the long head. So our triceps brachii. And the brachialis muscle is right here. So this muscle right there is the brachialis, and that's going to extend down into the brachioradialis, which was our first muscle of the forearm. Okay, it's the brachialis right up there. Okay, muscles of the forearm. First of all, remember that everything on the top side of the cat's arm is going to be an extensor. Okay, so you extend your hand using those top muscles, and everything on the underside or the palm side of the cat's arm are going to be flexors, because you use those muscles to flex your hand. Okay, and then finally, if I put my hand on top there, you can imagine that this is the thumb side and this is the pinky side. So the arm bone on your thumb side running up here is your radius. Okay, so muscles on this side are going to have names like radialis. And then if this is my pinky side, this is where my ulna would be found. So muscles on that side would have names like ulnaris. Okay, so keeping that in mind, you can go through these muscles on the forearm. So first of all, the extensor retinaculum and flexor retinaculum is basically just a ring of cartilage right around where the wrist would be. So the extensor retinaculum, of course, is going to be on the extensor side. And then the flexor retinaculum would be on the flexor side. And again, it's a little bit like a bracelet, just a ring of cartilage right around the wrist area. Okay, so starting on our extensor side, we have this first muscle here. On a lot of cats will have been ripped off in the process of dissecting, but this very top one is the brachioradialis, and that's going to extend up and connect into the brachialis muscle up there. Okay, so brachioradialis right there. And then our next one, extensor carpi radialis longus and extensor carpi radialis brevis. Okay, so longus and brevis, and then extensor digitorum communis, and next extensor digitorum lateralis. Okay, so extensor digitorum communis, communal, group, shared, it's kind of sort of in the middle, I guess, and then extensor digitorum lateralis, lateral beside, it's this next one over. And then finally, extensor carpi ulnaris, down there. Okay, and then there is a muscle right along the ulna, right along the bone there, that is not on our list, but just be aware that it's there. And then you'll be flipping all the way over to the flexor carpi ulnaris, which has this very distinct shape. It's kind of a small triangular muscle and then a tendon that extends down to the wrist there. Okay, so flexor carpi ulnaris, flexor digitorum superficialis, this broad, flat, superficial muscle that lies on top. This next one here, flexor digitorum profundus, so profound, deep, sort of deep underneath the superficialis. And then flexor carpi radialis, right there. And finally, pronator teres, which has this kind of this thick section right up in the crook of the elbow there. So pronator teres.